Good day, everyone. How's everybody doing today? Hi. Hi. This is Jail with AstroPress. I'm looking at some forensic astrology around the University of Idaho Slains. And I posted the chart for 3 o'clock in the morning on November 13th, 2022, which was when 4 students from the University of Idaho were brutally murdered. And a horrific crime scene. They were stabbed. They were slashed. A knife was involved. Not a gun. A knife was involved with the killings of these 4 students. And so the first thing I want to say is to all the parents and all the friends and family, I'm so sorry for your loss of these beautiful, talented, gorgeous students. So talented, just super talented. A lot of them were on the dean's list. They were popular. They were good looking. They were going places. And their lives were cut short by some horrific individual out there. So when I pull the chart, I keep seeing that the targets were the 2 besties on the 3rd floor. So that would be both Maddie and Kaylee. And I really feel Kaylee was even more possibly of a target. And let me explain why I feel that those 2 girls were the prime targets. So first of all, they were both Gemini women, both the same age, born in the same year, a few days apart from each other. Maddie Mogan was born a sun sign of Gemini with the moon in Cancer. She had Jupiter in the sign of Gemini. And Kaylee was born a sun sign of Gemini with the moon in Aquarius. She also had Jupiter in the sign of Gemini. And this is going to be significant because Gemini is the sign of the twins. In that world of astrology, it's the ruler of the 3rd house. And so they were like twins. They were like sisters, and they were both Geminis. The date this happened adds up to a number 3. This happened at 3 a.m., where the chart I pulled was for 3 a.m. This happened on the 3rd floor, again, with 2 Geminis. And I feel that the perpetrator was targeting one of them. I want to say it was Kaylee more so than Maddie. I say that because why would of the victims been killed on the 2nd floor? Why the perpetrator, for whatever reason, went up to the 3rd floor, right? Didn't need to go to the 3rd floor. Whether he entered the 3rd floor on his own, he entered the 3rd floor by them letting him in, or whatever. He didn't stop. My point is, he didn't stop at the 2nd floor where both Zena and her boyfriend Ethan were. The 3rd floor was important on this particular night. Okay? So I'm going to be focusing on both Maddie Mogan and Kaylee because I believe they were the perpetrators' focus. When you look at the chart for that day, it is a Libra rising chart, which means the chart ruler is Aphrodite, which is Venus. And Venus was where? She was in Scorpio on November 13th, 2022. Okay? So the victims were very good looking. They were Venusian. They probably had lots of people jealous and obsessed about them. They probably had stalkers. They probably had people watching them that didn't even know were watching them. There was probably a lot of people that wanted to have sex with them. There were probably a lot of jealous and envious people associated with those two gorgeous women. Venus is conjuncting both Mercury and the Sun in Scorpio, which tells me they were uber popular, uber good looking, very charismatic, and mercurial, which is very Gemini, which means also that they were students, they were friends, they were besties, they were like twins, okay? The other just thing, so when you think of all those planets in Scorpio, what does Scorpio rule? Death, dying, endings, beginnings, transformation, obsessiveness, love triangles, jealousy, envy, stalking, secrets, the occult, darkness, you name it. Lord of the underworld, okay? And so there was that energy around these women at that particular time, okay? And the other thing that's very bothersome to me is the part of bondage was also conjuncting that Libra energy. So I feel there was some sexual energy involved with these murders. I'm not saying sex happened that night, but I am saying that sexual attraction, sexual bondage, sexual whatever, was part of the perpetrator's obsessiveness with these women. So, all that Scorpio energy is at play. You're with me so far, right? Now, and by the way, the chart is posted on the community page. Hang on, I gotta get this other chart up. So you're with me so far on these gorgeous women. And now when we look at the perpetrator, he has an Aries energy associated with him. And that Aries energy is reporting to Mars in Gemini, right? Mars is in Gemini. What were the girls? Geminis, students, the twins. The perpetrator was feeling aggressive, was feeling sexual, was feeling violent towards twins, towards students, towards the object of his desires, to maybe more than one person. Gemini energy. Now that Mars in Gemini falls in the 9th house. So Mars in Gemini would ignite both Kaylee and Maddie's Jupiter in Gemini, right? So that's even more of a draw for the perpetrator. His Mars globbed on to their Jupiters in Gemini, to their sun signs of Gemini. And some of the glob on was stickier and more violent and brutal than the others. Chiron is also conjuncting this Aries perpetrator. So the perpetrator is an Aries energy, of an Aries energy that is wounded. Aries is what? Competitive, tough, rough, sexual, combative, aggressive, the ruler of the god of war. Aries energy can represent the perpetrator was a hunter, was a shooter, was a killer, obviously. Someone who knew how to use a knife, a gun, weapons. Could have been a butcher. Could have been someone who worked in the military, law enforcement, worked in any profession where you need to know how to use a knife or a gun, or is trained. Could have been somebody that was just obsessed with killing them. And at the same token, this is an individual who felt wounded in his relationships. Wounded. So basically, he was expressing his wounding. I feel wounded. I don't feel good enough in my romantic relationships. And because I don't feel good enough, that makes me angry. And because I can't get the objects of my desires, Mars, energy, I'm going to just kill. I'm going to murder. Because I'm going to get a release from this somehow, some way. Okay? So are you following me so far on how I'm viewing the perpetrator? Okay? I believe it has to be a pretty well-built, probably very athletic-looking person that did this. And so what I think possibly happened, and I'm not done yet, the other thing I wanted to say is part of love is also opposing that Chiron energy. So what I think happened is the perpetrator either had love feelings, sexual feelings, romantic feelings, whatever that was, he had it and he couldn't get it. Or maybe he was drawn in and thought maybe he was going to have sex with the girls or girl or whatever, and they said no to him. Whatever it is, there was some kind of sexual obsessiveness going on, I believe, based on what I see in the chart. Okay? The perpetrator could very well be a student. It could be someone who is not from the university. It could be someone who's not even from the United States. It could be someone who's international, because Mars and Gemini falls in the 9th house of higher learning, of people that live in all over the world internationally. So it'll be interesting to find out, was this a graduate student? Who was this that did this? Who has been watching them? It could have been a runner. It could have been someone really athletic as well with this energy. And so I've talked about who I feel the targets were, both Maddie and Kaylee, and the reasons why. I've also talked about the perpetrator and the reason why. But I'd like to talk about now, when you look at the chart ruler, all that Venus, the Sun, and Mercury in Scorpio are opposing Uranus and the North Node in the house of Scorpio, in the house of death. So there definitely was an opposition. There definitely was a struggle. This was something surprise. I would say, obviously, of course it was a surprise. Who's expecting who's expecting to get murdered, right? The other thing that's interesting to me is the moon was in the sign of Cancer at 3 o'clock in the morning. It's really it was a 9-degree Cancer midheaven and 17. So the moon is kind of in a bit, not a tight orb, but the moon in Cancer is right up there at play, folks. So that tells me emotions were involved, moon in Cancer, family. Was this a family man? How does the Cancer energy play out in this? Now, Maddie Mogan is the moon in Cancer, so she'd be having a lunar return. I also know that Pluto in Capricorn would have been conjuncting Kaylee's moon in Aquarius, because Pluto is in Capricorn at 20. What is this? Is at 25? Am I reading this right? Sorry, guys. I'm like trying to go back and forth here with a couple of things. Anyway, so Pluto conjuncting the moon, that can be also death can happen. It's true. Or there's obsessiveness around you. And that's why I really think Kaylee was probably the target with that Pluto conjuncting the moon energy, and a lot of other things. So with the moon in Cancer, I would not be surprised if they were slashed on their stomachs, on their breasts, on the female, you know, the female part of a female body. I'm wondering how those knife marks went in this particular case. And so it's just a horrific situation that has happened. And my heart goes out to the families. And again, I just keep seeing that this Kaylee, especially Kaylee, must have been the target or something. I believe maybe she had someone, there was rumors she did have a stalker. I just believe that both those girls were so attractive. They probably had lots of people interested in them. And when they gave them the boot, they didn't like it. And I understand those girls were pretty much intoxicated the night that they came home, which would have made them not being 100% probably aware of their surroundings. I mean, when you go out and you're drunk and you go home, what do you want to do? You probably want to go straight to bed, right? So what do I think happened? Either, like I said, either someone's been obsessing and stalking them for a while that they know, someone's been watching them that they don't know for a while, like out at a distance. They may have met some guys and asked them to come home with them. And maybe there was some stuff that happened sexually, not maybe that night, but maybe before. And maybe that person wanted to come over again and got the boot. I don't know. There's just a love triangle, obsessiveness, stalker, dark energy, mysterious energy around all of this. And the fact that they were killed with a knife says it had to be personal. So form your own opinions. This is my own opinion reading the natal astrology chart for 3 o'clock in the morning. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I'm recording this to be of help to someone. Pay attention to who was obsessed with these girls, who was stalking them, who were they dating, you know, what was going on at the night they went out to the bar. Were there guys there that wanted to go home with them? Was there a secret admirer there? Is there a love triangle involved where someone was messing around with someone and the other person found out about it? All I know is somebody was ignited in a huge, obsessive, jealous way. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much for being here today. This is Jill with Astro Press, and I am signing off. Bye for now.